TV7 Israel News is made possible thanks to your generous donations. Shalom, Erev Tov, good evening. This is TV7 Israel News broadcast to you from Jerusalem. The Israeli Air Force strikes the Iranian-proxy Ansar-Allah, which is dominated by the Houthi tribe in Yemen, in response to repeated ballistic missile and unmanned aerial vehicle fire toward Israel. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu warns Qatar that unless it removes Hamas from its territory, Israel will. The European Commission is lobbying EU member states for the purpose of applying sanctions against Israel. Israel will not relent from its fight against its enemies, irrespective of mounting international pressure. The IDF has executed multiple operations throughout the region over the course of the past 24 hours alone, with IDF Chief of General Staff Lieutenant General Eyal Zamir pledging, in an address to a naval graduation ceremony, to cut off the hands of Israel's enemies throughout the Middle East.
In recent days, we have struck in several arenas simultaneously. In Syria, to thwart capabilities that threaten our freedom of operations. In Lebanon, Hezbollah targets deep in Lebanon, terror headquarters in distant lands, and in recent hours, in response to ballistic missile fire towards us, we struck a number of targets in Yemen. In the Gaza Strip, we will continue to act with force until we bring back our brothers, the hostages, both the living and the fallen. We will spare no effort. This is our moral duty and our ethical mission. We are reshaping the security reality and delivering massive blows to Hamas in order to defeat it and dismantle its regime. Soon we will mark 2 years since the IDF rose to its feet, proving every day its determination and strength. Our message is clear. The long arm of the IDF will reach every arena and cut off the hands of all our enemies in the Middle East.
Meanwhile, in Jerusalem, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, in response to mounting international pressure and rebukes, and for the sake of marking September 11th, warned all nations that harbor terror organizations that plan, finance, and direct acts of terror against the state of Israel.
We remember September 11th. On that day, Islamist terrorists committed the worst savagery on American soil since the founding of the United States. We also have a September 11th. We remember October 7th. On that day, Islamist terrorists committed the worst savagery against the Jewish people since the Holocaust. What did America do in the wake of September 11th? It promised to hunt down the terrorists who committed this heinous crime wherever they may be. And it also passed a resolution in the Security Council of the UN 2 weeks later that said governments cannot give harbor to terrorists. Well, yesterday, we acted along those lines. We went after the terrorist masterminds who committed the October 7th massacre. And we did so in Qatar, which gives safe haven. It harbors terrorists. It finances Hamas. It gives its terrorist chieftains sumptuous villas. It gives them everything. So we did exactly what America did when it went after the terrorists, the Al-Qaeda terrorists in Afghanistan, and after they went and killed Osama bin Laden in Pakistan. Now the various countries of the world condemn Israel. They should be ashamed of themselves. What did they do after America took out Osama bin Laden? Did they say, oh, what a terrible thing was done to Afghanistan or to Pakistan? No, they applauded. They should applaud Israel for standing up to these same principles and carrying them out. And I say to Qatar and all nations who harbor terrorists, you either expel them or you bring them to justice. Because if you don't, we will.
Meanwhile, in London, after meeting with British Prime Minister Keir Starmer at 10 Downing Street, Israeli President Yitzhak Herzog attended Chatham House for a Q&A session during the course of which he stressed that while the British Premier reaffirmed London's position vis-à-vis Hamas regarding it as a foreign terrorist organization that must be removed, there seems to be a disagreement between the two leaders with regard to premature recognition of Palestinian statehood.
Prime Minister reiterated, and of course, I couldn't agree more, that Hamas is a terror organization that must be removed.
But
we discussed it at length, including the fact that we believe that a unilateral resolution regarding a Palestinian state will be adverse and negatively affect any future process because it will be dangerous, it won't help one Palestinian, one hostage, and can be adversely interpreted by Hamas.
President Herzog was further asked about Israel's strike on Hamas's leadership in Qatar with the aim of eliminating arch-terrorist Khalil el-Haya, among others.
Now, I can attest to the fact, because I'm exposed to intelligence all the time, that Khalil el-Haya, whose hands are filled with the blood of thousands of Israelis on October 7th, who's the head of Hamas sitting in Qatar, he kept on refusing and or saying yes with a poison pill that looks like a slime, endless slime that doesn't end. We want a deal, and we want to finish the war, and we say we are ready to exit the war with a full hostage deal and a ceasefire, but for that you need Hamas to say yes.
It remains unclear whether the strike on the Islamist Hamas leadership's gathering in the Qatari capital of Doha was successful, with Qatari officials noting, however, that the remains of a few bodies that were present at the location of the attack are undergoing an identification process. Meanwhile, in Berlin, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, similar to French President Emmanuel Macron and British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, claimed that Israel's strike effectively breached international law.
This was a military strike by the Israeli army that violated international law, involving a territorial violation of Qatar, a country that, like few others, has endeavored to play a mediating role in this conflict and has been very helpful so far.
The German leader further highlighted that Berlin was considering a proposal by the European Commission to sanction Israel over what Brussels perceives as a legitimate method of pressuring Israel to hold the war against the Islamist Hamas in Gaza.
As far as sanctions are concerned, I would first like to wait for the internal discussion in the European Council, as well as the discussion within the German coalition. We in the coalition agree that Israel's actions are unacceptable. The German foreign minister reiterated this yesterday evening. That is our shared conviction.
It is important to highlight that the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, addressed the European Parliament ahead of her anticipated address to the Union, during the course of which she proclaimed that while EU member states frustrated efforts by the Commission to impose sanctions on Israel, she decided to sanction Israel nonetheless.
Europe needs to do more. Many member states have moved ahead on their own. On our side, we proposed to suspend parts of our Horizon funding, but this is stuck without a majority. We must overcome this. We cannot afford to be paralyzed. And this is why I will propose a package of measures to carve out a way forward. First, the Commission will do all that it can do on its own. We will put our bilateral support to Israel on hold. We will stop all payments in these areas without affecting our work with Israeli civil society or Yad Vashem. Second, we will make 2 further proposals to the Council. We will propose sanctions on the extremist ministers and on violent settlers. And we will also propose a partial suspension of the association agreement on trade-related matters.
Von der Leyen continued by announcing another European Commission decision to set up a donor group that would have EU member states divert taxpayers' funds to the reconstruction of the Gaza Strip and to build upon the joint French-Saudi conference in New York that aims to recognize Palestinian statehood despite lacking a mandate to do so.
We will set up a Palestine donor group next month, including a dedicated instrument for Gaza reconstruction. This will be an international effort with regional partners, and it will build on the momentum of the New York conference organized by France and Saudi Arabia.
Thank you for watching TV7 Israel News. As ever, please keep praying for the return of all 48 hostages who've now endured 706 days in brutal Hamas captivity in the Gaza Strip. Pray also for the Druze and Christians in southern Syria, and pray for the peace of Jerusalem and salvation of Israel. I'm Jonathan Hessen, wishing you an Erev Mevorach, and God willing, we will see you during our next update. Until then, Shalom from Jerusalem.